Welcome to Sacred Strategy, the business and energy podcast where bold strategies meet the magic of energy and intuition. I'm Sora Schilling, sacred spaceholder, business alchemist, and creator of the Devoted Archetypes, Sovereign Selling, and the Devoted Energy Coaching Model. For over a decade, I've guided thousands of coaches and spaceholders to build thriving, soul-aligned businesses that create impact and life-changing money. Let's cut through the noise of traditional strategies and uncover your unique medicine. Use the Devoted Archetypes to become a transformational spaceholder and learn to sovereignly sell with integrity. This podcast is your invitation to step into your magic and create a blissfully abundant business and life filled with curiosity, awe, and wonder. Let's dive in. Hi there, Sacred Strategists. How are you today? I have so much energy today. I feel good. And the whole reason I feel so great is because of yard work. That's right. You heard me correctly. I said yard work. Now, for some of you that know me well, you know that I was born and raised in New York, that I grew up pretty much a full-on city kid. And there was never a moment in time that I ever had to do yard work, even when I lived in the suburbs. And so as an adult, I didn't have to do yard work then either. And so I didn't know the different names of tools. I really didn't know anything about gardening. I don't know much about anything that has to do with having a yard. And now I have this incredible home that I absolutely adore and cherish. I'm outside every day, at least 5 times a day, throwing the ball with Delphi and saying hello and thank you to all of the wildlife, including the trees and the bushes and the flowers that are all around me. And the previous owners of this house did an incredible job with the landscape of the home. And I have been very stressed about making sure that I live up to the expectations of what the previous owners have done to this place because it is quite beautiful. So I was very excited that my in-laws came into town this past weekend, and they are actually quite experts when it comes to gardening and yard work. And so they brought some tools that they had doubles of, and then we went and we bought some more. And so I now have garden gloves. I have pruners and shears. I have a rake. I also have some other tools that Eric uses that I don't know how to use that takes gas and things like that. So Sora doesn't touch those. But I have this incredible new tool that I've never seen before or heard, and it's called an extendable tree pruner. Do you know what that is, people? If you do and you're laughing at me, you have full permission to keep laughing. But I'm going to try to explain what an extendable tree pruner is. It is this blade that's connected and attached to a string that's also attached to this pole. And the pole is extendable, so you can make it shorter or longer. The idea is that you place the shear or the blade by a branch that's high up on a tree that you might need to cut because it's overextended onto your house, or because some of the branches are dead and you want to make sure the tree is alive and that the energy isn't going to the dead branches. And so you want to cut them. And so you put the blade right by that branch, and then you use the string to pull so it cuts the branch without you having to be that tall. And I'm 5'1", so I very much need this extender. And so I did that. I also pulled out lots of weeds, cut back bushes, trimmed the F out of some of them so that they would bloom even more. And my mother-in-law and father-in-law was just teaching me all sorts of things. We would also look up some tree berries to see if it was dangerous for my puppy, and we would go ahead and try to remove them as quickly as possible. And I did this for a good full 2 days, and it was so meditative. I was in this zone of getting to work. I was physically engaged with the land, and it was so exhilarating. I'm also incredibly sore, and I slept really well. And there's so many perks to this. So I have to say, I'm in love with yard work. But I wanted to share this because number one, it's so fun, right? To just share what's happening in everyday life. Number two, let you know that no, there are certain things I know nothing about, including yard work. And now I'm slowly starting to learn it. So you can be delighted and entertained by my innocence and not knowing of things. And I'm going to try to pull some of those stories back into what today's podcast is all about. And so today's episode is the secret reason most coaches and healers aren't growing. Hint, it's not marketing or sales. So, most coaches and healers may think the reason they're not growing is because they don't have the right clients, right? Or they believe they don't know enough and they need to learn more and they're not ready. Or maybe they feel like they're not visible enough and no one knows who they are and that they have to serve everyone because they're here to be of service. Now, coaches and healers might also get caught up in doing a lot of busy work and believe wholeheartedly in their bones that every single thing that they are doing is so important and is going to move the needle. And so they stay endlessly in motion without any traction. And they feel like they're spinning because they're like, I am doing so much. And yet it feels like I'm not doing anything. And I'm not gathering the clients and I'm not making more money. So, what is the point in this? Right? That would be like me doing yard work by myself with no knowledge. I would be pulling everything or pulling nothing and being like, I don't really know what to do and getting lost in the weeds, right? Physically, metaphorically, and literally. And then overextending and doing it and then not getting any traction because let's say I've killed my plants or now it looks like a mess and I still don't know what's going on. For you coaches and healers out there, sometimes when you think something is too hard, you make it into a big universal sign that you're not meant to do it. And you look for something that's easier. So I'm going to get real here because strategies can always be tweaked. And funnels can always be refined. That's why we always reiterate. And offers can always be adjusted. And yes, you can create new offers, which is what you do all the time anyway. You're creating so many offers and you're in the weeds of it and you're staying endlessly busy without making any traction, right? And so here's the thing for anything around strategy, funnels, offers, those business concepts, you can figure out with patience and by looking at metrics, by looking at numbers, because numbers tell a story. So, what actually needs to shift first isn't your strategy, it's actually your identity. And here is why strategy isn't enough. When you're running your business from the place of needing to prove yourself and prove your worth and find validation and end up trying to people please everyone, you start removing all sense of boundaries and chasing validation externally outside of yourself. And then you become generic. So that energy translates into all of your offers, your sales, and even your client results because you're not being strong in who you are, confident in your abilities, knowing and listening to your intuition, and being in a space of deeply knowing what is okay and not okay in the boundaries of what you are delivering. And so you're not grounded in your own medicine or your own points of view. Your leadership, and you're trying to be everything for everyone, which we know doesn't work anyway. And when we're in this place, we're not serving anyone deeply. So you might say, I just want to go deeper with people. I just don't want to do surface level anymore. I want to go deeper and more meaningful. But if you do, and you're still trying to prove yourself and lack any boundaries and want to offer up everything and anything, how are you ever going to go deeper with anyone? Now, on the other hand, when you embody the state of a badass CEO and space holder, that's when we're talking here, okay? The way your brain works, the choices you make, the presence that you carry in all situations, it changes everything. And the way people work with you and interact with you changes. You're no longer reacting from fear or desperation. You're showing up with clarity, with confidence, with intuition, with this rooted sense of self, and it's sexy as F. This is the difference between hustling for growth and feeling like you are neither here nor there to actually scaling sustainably and being really grounded and rooted in yourself, in your values, your beliefs, and your confidence. So, let me share a story about a client of mine. She had over 20 years of experience in the personal development world. And so, when she came to me, she was exhausted, she was uninspired, and she was really at the edge of quitting. And she kept saying, I just don't know. I don't think I'm adding any value. I don't think I'm doing anything really at this moment in time to help serve people. And she was really hard on herself, and she basically just needed a break. She told me that she felt like everything felt generic, like her words were bland, her work was surface level, even though she knew she can go deeper, that the people she was calling in just wanted surface level things, and nothing truly reflected the depth that she craved. She wanted to go deeper with her clients, but she didn't know what that meant. And so she had lost her inspiration in her work. And when we began to finally examine her journey, we realized that she had over 2 decades worth of wisdom. And she knew it, but didn't know it, right? She would say it, but she wasn't actually embodying it. And when I began to reflect that back to her, she realized that she does have her own healing methodology, that she has her own conceptual understanding that no one else could replicate. And what she needed was not actually another strategy. What she needed was to own her identity as a wise leader and that she was ready to leave a mark, to leave a legacy. And so when she stepped into that identity, then everything began to shift. And within weeks, she created a new signature program, clarified her message, was on social media all the time, had batched and scheduled her newsletters months in advance. She had people immediately coming out of the woodwork saying that they wanted to work with her and they were so ready to go deeper. And she felt more spacious and more inspired and more confident that she had in years, not because of a new marketing hack, but because she remembered who she was and embodied her CEO identity. And so, what I believe needs to happen is to shift your identity from proving to being present with your magic. Here's what happens when you're in the proving stage: you've got no boundaries. You're hustling to feel worthy. You're saying yes to things that don't align. You're over delivering. You're desperately trying to get any client because they're going to pay you some money. You're not leading. You're seeking approval, validation. But when you step into your CEO identity, you actually show up differently. There's freedom in how you make decisions, and even the decisions you make and the questions you ask yourself are vastly different. Your presence communicates trust and authority before you even speak, which is amazing. You're not, quote, doing anything, you're simply being. You know your medicine, your thought leadership, and your frameworks, and that clarity inspires others to follow your lead. So when fear arises, which they do, and that is part of the healing journey of a CEO and entrepreneur, and so that's not going to go away. But when fear arises, we don't collapse. Instead, what happens is you're going to notice that you honor it. You walk with it, you celebrate it, you understand it, and you move through it with sovereignty. That's the energetic difference that changes when going from trying and proving to presence and badass CEO energy, right? So, how do you begin to stretch into this new identity as a badass CEO? You start by asking yourself these questions to reorient your perspective. The questions being, what does being a badass CEO mean for me personally? How would that identity feel in my body? What types of concerns would I have from this place? How would I move through challenges, even my old challenges, the old programs and fears, in a sovereign way? What daily choices would I make differently if I was already that CEO? And lastly, what is the next level of space holding I'm to provide for myself and my clients? These reflections help you stretch the muscle of identity. When you shift first internally, then the actions you take come from alignment and are easeful. You're no longer acting from fear, scarcity, or desperation. Instead, you're coming from a place of trust, confidence, and possibility. And that's when your intuition and your resourcefulness flow really naturally. So, even badass CEOs, we are going to be met with doubt, of course. The difference is we recognize them as old patterns. We don't fall deep into them and we don't stay there long. We practice and we stay present and we move through them and we return to our vision and our leadership with clarity and aspiration. So every day I ground myself in my CEO identity. And I start by identifying my three key actions for the day. And I ask myself, these the things that will move the needle, the ones that truly move my business forward. I then check in with my mind, noticing the stories I'm telling myself, the doubt and fears from past events that might be claiming my future, so that I can tell myself that's not real. I then check in with my body and I sense how I'm feeling. And then I ask myself, how do I step into my CEO state today? What does it look like to be rooted and confident and present in my choices? Now, for me, sometimes that means taking bold action. Sometimes that means being visibly more open and doing my videos and being out on social more. Other days, it means being quiet and resting and walking and reflecting and being in discomfort and noticing what is the wisdom that's coming up, but also needing to feel it and move through it. And so I know as a projector, I need a lot of rest as part of my sacred design. So I don't make myself wrong for it. So the key here is awareness, meeting myself with sovereignty rather than slipping into victimhood. That's what keeps me aligned and intentional and clear. So I know there's going to be energy in with me where there are 2 weeks I'm out and about and I'm working from coffee shops. And then there might be another 2 weeks where I'm home all the time, resting and walking and doing my work at a slower pace. Nothing is wrong. Everything is divine timing because I know and trust and listen to my intuition. And that's what we do as badass CEOs. We work the energetics, we work the mindset, and then we take clear action. Not 20 scattered actions and only do half of them and don't come to completion, but 1 to 3 intentional actions that we come to full completion, a full circle. And that's when we know we've had a good day. And so I desire you to walk away with strategy, but with it also with presence, because when you don't have presence, energetic, and mindset, it's not going to work. You can hustle yourself into the ground with endless tactics, but if your identity and energetics aren't aligned, the results will always be inconsistent, unsustainables, with many highs and lows without your ability to have any spiritual practices to help ground you back in. When you step into your CEO identity first, suddenly the strategies align, the offers resonate, and the clients you've been waiting for can finally find you and be an immediate yes. So, if you're ready to spiritually upgrade yourself and your business, oh, I've got this great class. It is next week, happening September 9th, and I would love for you to be a part of it. It's a free training called the Spiritual Business Upgrade, and we're going to continue talking about the energetics, the mindset, and the identity shift. And then we're going to pair it with strategies to help you scale from 6 figures to multi six. And so you can use the link in the show notes to sign up. I really hope you're there. It's going to be dynamic. I'm not going to be just talking at you. And I am here to truly serve and help. You also are here to serve and help. You're here to lead, to create, and to hold space that transforms. And it begins with you choosing who you are to be. Step into the identity first. All right. Until next time, have a great day. Go ahead and DM me and tell me what came up for you based on this on Instagram. You can DM me at Devoted Way and let me know, or put a comment below and tell me how this lands for you. All right. Bye for now.